today we will be solving contains duplicate Leetcode problem. And as always, we will start with the problem statement and input and outputs. So as you can see, we have a straightforward problem statement. We are given only an integer array called nums. And for the return value, we have a Boolean. And in a case where there's an element that appears at least twice, we will return true. And in a case where all elements are distinct, we will return false. And for the constraints for the problem, we don't have anything special. We see that the maximum length of the array is 10 to the 5th. So we can say that we are looking at the linear time complexity desired, with the desired time complexity should be linear. And let's just go through the examples. In the first examples, we can clearly see that we have a number that's appearing twice. In the first and the last location, we have number 1. So clearly the function should return true, which it does. And for the second example, we have a plain sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and all numbers are distinct, so we are returning false. In the third example, we have many numbers that are reappearing in the array, and we see that 3 first numbers are basically the same. And by the problem statement, only like one element is enough to appear more than once, so at least twice, and the function should return true. The first hint might be to traverse through all the numbers and check them with all other numbers. So, for example, if we start with the first number, we will be checking if it's the same as the second, third, fourth, and so on. And then we will move to the second number, and we will check it with the rest of the array, which leads us to quadratic time complexity. But we might do better. So we might think to sort the array if that's gonna help, and it could help, but it will lead to n log n time complexity. And you should know that if you sort the elements, the duplicates will appear one to each other. So the only thing that you have to do, so let's say we will sort this array. After sorting, it will be like this, and we will only need to check if we'll have to traverse the array and check if the current element is the same as its as the next element. So the neighbor, its neighbor, and if it is, we will just return true because there is a duplicate. The information that we need when we are like in the middle of the array is actually, for example, when we are looking at the number 3 here, the information that we need is, did number 3 already appear in the array? And the data structure that should immediately pop up in your mind is a hash map or a set, because it can give you in that information pretty fast. It can give you in a constant time. So the difference between the hash map and the set here, set would be a better option probably because it's natural deduplication kind of data structure. So it contains only like distinct values. And we don't need any other information. We don't need a mapping between like key and value to solve the problem. We only need the information if the element already exists. So if we go through an example, and I will just do the first example given by the problem, as you can see, we just here have an array, and let me just write set here. So this will be our set, and we will just write all the values that it has here. So at the beginning, it's an empty set. As we traverse through an array, let's start with the first number, of course. So our iterator is set to 0. And as we move to the set, we will be checking as we move through the array, we will be checking if the number already exists in the set. And if it does, that basically means that we have already seen it and there's a duplicate. It's the second time the number is appearing, so we will return true. If you traverse through the whole array and we didn't have that scenario, all numbers are distinct, and we will return false. So in this case, the set is empty. So for the first number, we will be just inserting into site set. and we will just continue our traversal. For the second number, it's basically the same. The only number in the set is 1, which is different from the correct number 2. So we will just insert number 2 in the set and move the traversal further into the array. And in this case, we face the number 3, and we will just do the same as we did for the previous element. We will just insert it in the set. Now things get interesting because uh, once we move to the last element, we have 1, but that element already appears inside the set. So that means that we already have seen it in the array, so we can return true because we have a duplicate. And this will cost us, it will be a linear time complexity because we only have to traverse the array once. So this is our TC. And for the space complexity, we can have a set that is basically of the same length as the initial array. So the space complexity will be linear to the input size, the size of the array. Now let's code up the solution. We will first initialize our set set of integers that we will use to store the numbers we traverse over in the array, which is our basically next step. We create a for loop that goes through all the numbers in the input array. And for each number, we check if it's already contained inside the set. And if it is, that basically means that we have already traversed over it. And this is our second time, which basically means it's a duplicate, and we can return true. Otherwise, we just insert it inside the set and continue our traversal. At the end of the for loop, which basically means we traverse the whole array and we didn't find a duplicate, all the elements are distinct, we just return false.